Hello again. This is a video that I've been asked to do a couple of times and I've finally got round to doing it, primarily because last week I did a video on the Farpoint collimation kit which included a primary mirror centre spotting template and centre spots, and that's what this video is going to be about. We're going to centre spot a primary mirror and then we're going to also clean that primary mirror. Now, depending on sort of the way you work, you can do the clean and the centre spot in whichever order you want. If you're confident and you know that you're not going to get any fingerprints on your mirror, or you've got to be very careful just cleaning up any chemical residues that you use to remove the old spot, then by all means do the clean first. Failing that, if you're not so confident, then do the clean after. It's just swings and roundabouts really. Now, with regards to putting a centre spot on your primary, there can be a few reasons. You might have a primary mirror that doesn't even have a centre spot. Now, in that case, you can use one of the paper reinforcing discs that you can get from stationers that you're used to reinforce the holes in pages that you punched for putting in ring binders. Those will work fairly adequately. Also, you can buy centre spots from sort of various places on the internet. Now, the thing is, it is preferable to have a centre spot that isn't technically symmetrical, like a circle, so that there are lines of symmetry in it so you can see which way up it is, and also the shape and the way that it works with a collimator, which was explained in the Farpoint collimator kit video. So we're going to actually need a couple of tools here, but they're just sort of household items in general. We're going to need a cocktail stick. Now, obviously, it needs to be a nice, clean, fresh one, not one that's got half of yesterday's dinner still stuck on it. Now, you're going to want some cotton buds. Now, I would recommend that you get a good brand of cotton bud. These are Johnson's, and these are very, very good ones. The reason being that some of the cheaper ones that you can get from sort of a Poundland or whatever you call pound shops in America, I don't know, 99-cent shops or something, they tend to have a sort of a poor grade cotton wool on the end, but also the way that the cotton's fitted to the sticks isn't very good, and you can start to drop off fibres and everything, and the actual full bud can drop off the end of the stick if you've dipped it in any chemicals. Now, speaking of chemicals, what we're going to need is some of this. Now, this is just ordinary nail varnish remover. It doesn't matter sort of what brand you use of that, just any general nail varnish remover or nail polish remover will do. They're all sort of acetone based. Now, your wife may have some of this, or your daughter might have some that you can borrow, or depending on what your other hobbies are at the weekend, you might even have some of your own. Now, also, you're going to need, obviously, your centre spot, and the other thing you're going to need is a way to centre it. Now, this is a centering template, and this was covered again in the Farpoint collimation kit video, because you actually get one with the collimation kit, but you can again download these from various places and you just print them on sort of clear acetate. Or you could make your own. There's no reason why you couldn't make your own in a graphics package. All you do is you get into your graphics package and make a circle the same diameter as your primary mirror in your scope, and then put a centre in it, and then you will need a couple of holes, or a minimum of one hole in sort of just off centre, that will allow you to stick your centre spot to this template when it comes to the actual spotting procedure, which we're going to cover next. So next we're going to go off into the workshop, that used to be a dining room, that is actually a workshop for the time being. So let's take a look at the first procedure. Okay, we've now got our primary mirror out of the telescope and we've had it on a board on the dining table here. Now, the first thing we want to do is to take our nail varnish remover and just put some in the cap of the bottle, like so that you've got a little supply there off to the side of the mirror. Now, what we do is we take one of the cotton buds, dip it into this nail varnish remover so that it's actually quite wet, and just get the big drip off the end of it, but make sure it's quite wet, and just dab it on to where the sticker is on the mirror, like so. We're just touching there and just dabbing a little bit on. Now, as you look at it, you will see it that it's so volatile, acetone, that it's evaporating as you look at it. Now, the secret is to just keep wetting that sticker down, so that we're keeping it soaked in the nail varnish remover. Now, as we're doing this, what you'll find as you just keep up the process, and you just have to be patient. You know, sometimes it'll happen in sort of a minute or so. Sometimes it may just take a few more applications. But as you start to dab it on, you'll see, looks like this one's going to take a few applications. But like I said, just be patient with it, and you will see eventually that the sticker will start to lift, and it'll lift even with just your dabbing action of the cotton bud. You know, if you just gently press at it from a sort of a side so the cotton actually catches the sticker, eventually it will start to lift. Now, if you've got to a stage where you think that that sticker has been totally saturated and it still doesn't seem to be lifting, what we can do is we'll just give this one a little bit more time. Now, don't forget that if you do have a little accident, you know, maybe you may catch a part of this central part of the mirror. Remember that the world's not at an end with that, because that very central part of your mirror actually doesn't get seen when the telescope's in normal viewing use, because this part is within the shadow of your secondary mirror. So, you know, you don't have to be over careful. Obviously be very careful with it, but, you know, don't be sort of thinking that you've got to be so gentle, not like when you're doing a clean on the actual primary mirror. Now, that's had quite a good soaking, and it just seems to be quite stubborn, this one. The ones that I've done before have come off quite easily, which is sort of shows you that all this is done off the cuff and no rehearsals and everything. So when things go wrong, they really do go wrong. So what we do next, because it's such a stubborn one, is we take our cocktail stick and just very, very gently have a go at a corner of your sticker. And again, this just doesn't seem to want to lift off at all. I don't know if you can see that I am applying quite a little bit of pressure to it, and it just doesn't want to seem to lift. So we'll give it a little bit more with the fluid. And it will eventually lift, trust me. And it is, like I said, it's quite a patient job, this. You know, just take your time with it. In fact, what we'll do is I'll cut the video at this point and just carry on working at it until it started to lift, and then we'll come back to it. Okay, bingo. I've started to get now just a little lift on the corner there, and as you just lift it a little bit, again with the nail varnish remover, just get some underneath there so it just works in like so. And at this point you should be able to just take a grip of it between your fingernails and just start to lift it, but lift it gently, because we don't want it to rip away and start leaving all sorts of residue behind, or even just tearing off and leaving little torn bits like you get on those stickers that you get on a new TV, and you pull the sticker off and there's half of it left and you can never get it off, and you've got this sticky part left on your television in your living room for God knows how long. And that is now starting to lift off quite easily. Again, working at it. I will say that this is the hardest one that I've ever had to remove. Normally, if you've got the sort of the white circle that you find on Skywatcher scopes, that's actually broken off there now. The white one that you get on Skywatcher scopes, that usually comes off within seconds. It's, you know, just different adhesive and different sorts of stickers, I suppose. So again, I've got half of it off, but it's come off cleanly. You know, it's not left anything behind on the mirror. So again, it's just having a go with the toothpick and trying to get up another part of it, or even if I can get hold of one of the torn off parts, obviously not. So again, I'm just going to work at it a little bit more, just keeping it well soaked in that nail varnish remover. Back in with the cocktail stick, and this is why you probably recommended to do the clean on the primary after you've done the centre spotting, because if you do just happen to get an awkward one, you're going to have sort of hand marks and little marks with chemical residues in the coin because you've used that much nail varnish remover. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to cut again until I get a start to appeal on this this particular sticker. And there it is. Now there is just a little bit of glue residue on there. I don't know if you can see that or not, but all you do again is with your cotton bud, just gently work it off. You want to try and get rid of any glue residues that are on there, and at some point just change your cotton bud and even have a go with a dry one. Just mop up some of the pool of nail varnish remover that's there and have a work at it with a dry one, because sometimes it will lift it, the glue residue will stick to the cotton and just lift off. So again, just quite gently have a go at it. It's a little bit like CSI with all this applying stuff gently with cotton buds. I'm just now giving it a final mopping over because everything's gone now. There's no glue residue there. I'm just going to give it a little mopping over with some more of this nail varnish remover in that general area, and then I'm going to go over it with a dry one. Again, gently, just mopping it up. And you will actually feel, if you gently, and I mean very, very gently, and you're just stroking the surface of that mirror, you will feel if there's any glue residue left on there, because it'll grip at the cotton. Now once you've done that, we're going to be ready for preparing to apply the new spot. I mean, you may get, there is some sort of, you do get some residue from the nail varnish remover. Don't worry about that too much. What we do need to do though now is just allow it to dry very, very thoroughly. We don't want any traces of that solvent left on there when we come to stick the new one on, or the new sticker just won't stick properly. So what we're going to do is just leave that for a couple of minutes and then we'll get on to the actual spotting procedure. Right, I've now removed all traces of the sticker and any solvent has now evaporated off. I'm just going to show you, this is how many cotton buds I actually went through. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cotton buds. So don't be frightened of changing cotton buds, just do it often, you know, because any debris that you've got or collected from that surface onto a mirror, onto a bud, you know, you're just going to spread it about. So, you know, change your buds quite often. Now another tip here is, obviously I've got to do this for the camera, but when you're working over a primary mirror, don't talk. Maybe you can get your wife to do it for you. But the reason being that even though we all don't think that we spit when we talk, everybody does to some extent, and at some point you will see this little tiny drop of saliva fly out and it'll land on your mirror. So, you know, obviously avoid talking when you're doing this job on your primary mirror. So like I said, next we're going to go on to the actual spotting with the spotting template and new centre spot. Right, what we do next is we take our centre spot and lie it down flat on a nice clean surface and take your template. Now you need to take your time with this, and what you do is you place your template over the top of that centre spot very carefully, like so. Next, take a piece of sellotape, or I'm actually using parcel tape, just stick that over the top, and what we need to do is to make sure that the tape goes through the holes in this template, and you can actually use one of the cotton buds again for this. Just push it through and make sure that the tape is sticking to that centre spot to hold it, and then as you can see we've now got it sort of gripped there. Now what you've got to do next is very carefully is to peel off the backing but leave that centre spot gripped in that template. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait until either my daughter or my wife come back, because it's actually a 3-person job when applying this to the actual mirror. So that's the point that we're at so far. As I said, next we're going to pull this backing paper off, leave that centre spot just gripped there. What we'll be doing then is, I'll just do a dry run for you, is we will place the template onto the mirror and face up the lines that match our mirror to the edges before getting a third person to actually press that spot down in position. So that's what we're going to do next, and that's just a dry run to illustrate how we're going to do it. Right, as you can see, I've now got the template with the spot in the middle of it and the backing removed. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to place it over the mirror, and at this point, just, you know, my head might get in the way of the camera and everything, because you want to be absolutely positive that you're in exactly the right spot. Now keep this template stretched between your fingers, and this is why you're going to need a third hand at some point. And like I said, just really take your time to get this template in exactly the right position. Like so, and then take a third hand like that, press, and that's it, thank you. Just press that spot on there through the template, and then gently peel the template back, and you now have a newly spotted mirror. So next we're going to go through a mirror clean with the spot in situ. Also, again, it might be a good idea just to take one of your cotton buds and just press that sticker down. Make sure that you don't have any bubbles underneath it, and just work your way around it, dabbing it down. And that's the mirror now centre spotted. Right, we're now on to the actual cleaning of the mirror, and for that you're going to need a couple more things. Firstly, you're going to need some of this, which is distilled water. Now, there are a few arguments on the internet about deionised water and purified water and all the rest of it. Deionised water is not distilled water. In fact, some distilled water that you do buy is actually deionised before it's distilled. An actual distilled water means that it's been evaporated and then recondensed and collected, so it's absolutely 100% pure. This in fact is actually medical grade distilled water that I managed to buy off the internet. Now also what you're going to need is some of this furry liquid, keeps your hands soft. Now before we start on cleaning the actual mirror, I use this method, and it's the finger method. You can do it with cotton wool, but if you do use cotton wool, you can't use normal cotton wool that you would get from the chemist. You have to get what they call BP cotton wool, which is a softer cotton wool. There's actually abrasives in some cotton wools. If you get BP cotton wool, there isn't. But like I say, I use the finger method. Now, the thing is with this that you need to have soft hands. If your hands are like full of calluses and stuff, you know, if you've got fingers like blind cobbler's thumbs, then you know, it's not a good idea. Maybe you could get your wife to do it. And also it's a good idea to practice this on a plate first, you know, if you've never done it before. Obviously take any watches off or any rings off, and the first thing you want to do is to wash your hands thoroughly. So just give your hands a really good wash. Mine are already clean, but all for the sake of science. Make sure your hands are lovely and clean. Now the next thing that we're going to do is to take a tea towel, a clean one, and just fold it sort of in half, maybe in half again, and lay it in the bottom of your sink. That's so that you don't actually cause any impact with the stainless steel sink or whatever material your sink's made of with your mirror. You know, you've got a nice soft bed there for it to sit on. Now the first thing that we do is lay the mirror into the sink and just bath it now with lukewarm water, definitely not hot, just so, you know, gauge the temperature of your water. And you don't want torrents of it, you're just basically bathing off any lumps of debris. You know, just let it run over the surface of the mirror like so. Give it a little help with your hands if necessary. All we're doing, like I said, is we're removing any debris and also just pre-soaking anything that's on there that, you know, is just hardened on a little bit. If you feel the water start to get too hot, then obviously, you know, if you've got a mixer tap, then just start to ease it over to the cold a little bit. Like so. And once you've given it a good soaking, some people actually do this in the shower. Now, the way that I do my mirror clean is this, and like I said, it's a good idea to practice on a plate first. If you take the mirror and just tilt it, give it a little squirt of the fairy liquid, and again just run water over it, and then glide your fingers over the mirror. And I don't know if you can see what I'm doing there, but let's just lift up a little bit. The secret is plenty of water, and when I'm saying glide your fingers over, you'll actually feel that you're almost not in contact with the mirror itself. It's like your fingers are floating on this layer. It's a bit like when cars aquaplane and we're just running the fingers and there's hardly any touch there at all. Like I said, it's a good idea to practice with a plate, and you will see exactly what it is I'm talking about if you do practice with a plate. You're sort of gliding over the top of the mirror. Like so. Again, it's a bit of a patient job, just, you know, take your time with it. And once you're certain that you've been everywhere, and like I said, the secret is plenty of water. Once you feel that you've been everywhere, just run under the tap to rinse it, like so. Now then, what we do next is we hide the soap through tea towel so we don't get in trouble with our wives. What we actually do next is get the tea towel again, lay it in the bottom of the sink, and place the mirror leaned up sort of in a tipped position. Be very, very careful when you're positioning it. As you can see, you've still got water on there. Now what you do, while it's still wet, you have to do this. You take your distilled water, which mine's still sealed, and rinse the distilled water over it. Now what we're doing with this is the distilled water, which just happens to have another cap on the inside, so let's try again, shall we? Can't do any second takes at this one, so anything that does go wrong obviously is going wrong. One second while I get this off and we'll come back to it. Okay, we've finally got the lid off properly, so give the mirror a good rinse with the distilled water. The reason being that your tap water will leave a residue of the salts and stuff that are actually in tap water, so you know, salts and minerals. Because there are none in distilled water, just give it a good rinse with the distilled. And we know that when this distilled water dries, there aren't going to be any salts or watermarks left on the surface of that mirror. So, again, just pick your mirror up, just give it a little shake. What you can do, if you like, to help it along, is to take a piece of kitchen roll and just using the corner, just touch some of those bigger drops, and you can see those sort of lifting up now. If we just, there we go, like so. You see how they are lifting off? A few around the edges where some of the water's just collecting, but just touch it with the corner, and the rest of that water now will actually evaporate off. You can even help it with an air dryer if you want, just to get rid of the rest of it, but I think with the camera angle there you should be able to see that that's actually a very, very clean mirror now. There's not a mark on it apart from just the drops of water. So we've got our new spot in place and we've got our mirror cleaned, and that's about it for this one. So if you do attempt this one, good luck with it, and like I said, it is a very patient job. You've really got to take your time with it. And once again, thanks for watching.